Today, you're going to hear about someone that is not only a licensed Florida attorney, she is a speaker, she is a founder, she is a massive action leader in the industry. She is dominating in her realm of what she does inside the real estate ecosystem. But she is going to be also talking to us about speaking like a leader, someone that is building influence and opening up opportunities. So you need to stop scrolling and join us for this conversation with a very special guest here on Agents in the Trenches, my dear friend Kendall Bonner. Now, I want you to prepare yourself to hear someone that speaks with authority, with eloquence, with tremendous confidence. I remember the first time that I saw her speaking at one of the conventions for eXp Realty. I was taken away. She's prolific. She delivers our message with authenticity, and she articulates it in a way that just captivates your attention. So if you want to meet this phenomenal professional in our industry, someone that is making great moves, setting a great path for so many of us to be able to follow, then you want to stay tuned for this episode of Ages in the Trenches. So without further ado, because I want to really dive deep on this conversation with this amazing, phenomenal woman who is really trailblazing in our industry. I mean, I can't even explain to you, and I'm not just saying this to say it, it's because I've seen it from afar, and today I'm super honored and blessed to have her here with me. Let's welcome Kendall Bonner, Vice President of Relationships and Strategic Strategies for eXp Realty. Welcome, Kendall. How are you?
Hi, Lucy. Thank you so much for having me. That was such an amazing introduction. I'm super honored. Very kind, gracious words that you gave to me. And just one note, I'm the former VP of
Oh,
Industry Strategic Partnerships. Sorry about that.
bring us up to date. Bring us up to date. Let's start there.
Yeah. For those that don't know, I was really blessed when I came to eXp. I brought over my team. I had sold my franchise. And through my relationship with my sponsor, Veronica Figueroa, I was introduced to the amazing leadership at eXp. And one of those phenomenal human beings was Leo Pareja.
Yeah.
And we just made really good friends. And honestly, we would talk business and we would talk strategy and we would have these, really phenomenal conversations, especially at that time around the NAR lawsuits. That was all kind of happening at the same time. And I was performing and presenting on stages quite a bit around leading up to this time on that particular topic. So Leo and I would powwow about these things. And so in April of 2024, he hired me to be his VP of Industry Relations. That eventually blossomed into strategic partnerships, and I ran eXp Solutions, and I also led the team for Express Offers and a couple other things. And that was a really great experience. I learned a ton. And then last summer, I realized that I felt called to do something else, I'll say.
Okay.
And I started to have this stirring in my spirit and my heart that there was something else that was going to be my new assignment. And so after deep prayer and thought and, a lot of conversations, I ended up letting Leo know that I would be retiring from eXp and that there was this further mission that I was being called to do to support other agents and leaders and make an industry impact that was different than the one I had already been doing. So I saw it as a changing of the chapters for me. And so my last day was at the end of eXpCon. And I've been in the background building something else, a couple of other things actually that God has called me to build. So here I am now.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? You did a phenomenal job. And that's when I first saw you. I mean, I know you had just come into the world of EXP. And then I immediately saw you on that stage speaking as a tremendous leader with a phenomenal, you know what really captivated my attention? And I'm very observant of people, right? Was the way you articulated everything you shared. You did it in a very well put together way. Because listen, everybody speaks, right? But then there's those people like you that know how to articulate a message and deliver it with impact. So let's dive a little bit deep into who you are, what you've done, because I know you have a phenomenal trajectory, and then we're going to land in what you're doing today, because I know a little bit about your latest project, which is extremely interesting, and I want to learn more and showcase that as well for everyone.
Yeah. So I'm a Florida licensed attorney. My mom's passed, but she was a doctor. And during her life, she was a psychiatrist. In fact, I recently learned going through some of her records, at one point, my mom was the chief of staff. And as a Black woman in the 80s and 90s, that was a pretty big deal in Southern California. I'm really like in awe of what my mother had accomplished. So for most people that know my background in history and knew my mother, like everything I do today is just kind of in line with the legacy of the woman that raised me. And
Wow.
I wanted to be a teacher. And my mom said, try again. They don't make any money. She said, JD, PhD, pick one. And so I ended up getting a JD, which is a Juris Doctorate, to become an attorney. Even though I never thought I wanted to actually practice law, I just thought that would be a good education. I graduated law school at 24 years old. So I was a baby, and I got married at that same time. And um, it was just, I was a young professional, and did criminal defense. I did trial work. I mean, I picked juries and, objection, Your Honor, all that stuff that people see on TV.
Wow.
I did, what else did I do? I did a Baker Acts here in Florida, things like that, where people were a danger to themselves or others. So I had to visit the hospitals and been in the jails. Like I did all of that. Then my career, I ended up, after I had a baby, I decided like, I don't want to be in the jails anymore. So I ended up doing workers' comp insurance defense. And I traveled all over the state of Florida doing that. So that was where I had that corporate client, and I had billable hours, and I did that for a few years. And then my husband started a bankruptcy practice, which put us in federal court. And those were federal proceedings. And so we did that. I did that with him for several years as well. And we owned our own law firm. And that was what led me into real estate, because I had the freedom as an entrepreneur to pursue what I wanted. And my mom had actually gotten sick with dementia during this time. And I realized how short life is. And I decided that, why am I doing a job or living a career in a life that was not what I dreamed of ever doing when I was younger? So I realized, hey, now's the time to try new things. And I ended up getting my real estate license, and the rest is history.
Oh my goodness. And so tell us a little bit about what were those life lessons throughout
Mm,
that whole trajectory, right?
yeah,
Dreaming of being a teacher, but then of course your mom telling you, here are your options, here's what you need to do. And then being so young, right, in front of such a challenging world, because I can't imagine it. It must be stressful to be in front of judges and, interjecting and doing all that stuff that we watch on TV happen, right? What were those
yeah.
life lessons that you carry with to today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say a couple of them stand out significantly for me that carry me to this day. Number one, my mom impressed upon me the value of wisdom. So, like, even at 16 years old, I was praying for godly wisdom in my life. And I feel like that actually really genuinely protected me from a lot of like the choices and decisions that I made. I feel like I was able to make really good, strong, strategic, and wise decisions in my career and in my life. And it was almost like I knew something was going to happen before it happened, and I would move. And I didn't know. I just trusted. Like there was an inkling inside me that said, make this decision, go this route. And I was so blessed. A lot of things worked in my favor because of that. The second thing that my mom taught me, that was one of the most powerful lessons that I carried with me through my youth and into my adulthood to today. And I share this with people all the time. And it was her wisdom. She said, you don't have to make the mistake to learn the lesson. And that was a really powerful piece of advice for me, because a lot of us, we live in two camps. There's many of us who feel like I have to go the hard way. I have to get beat up 10 times before I get it. And then there's others of us who really want to, avoid pain and suffering if we can.
Mhm.
And I was always very obsessed with efficiency and doing things. Uh, efficiency, definition of efficiency is the maximum output with minimum wasted effort, right? So, what's
Mhm.
the quickest, most efficient way to get from point A to point B? That was how I lived my life, right? Everything was in that framework. And so being able to learn from other people's mistakes and watching them and observing them was really powerful. I'll give you a case in point. When I decided to start my real estate team about 4 or 5 years ago, the first thing I did was I made a list of all of my friends who I believed were running successful teams. And so that included Veronica Figueroa and several others from across different brands and friendships that I had created over my career. And I called them with a list of questions and I asked them, what they did well, what tools they were using, all the typical things. But I also asked them about their mistakes. I also
Mhm.
asked them, what, if you could do it differently, what would you do differently? I've learned as being an entrepreneur over many, many years now that you have to build businesses with the end in mind. And a lot of people don't do that. They just think about the beginning. How can I just get started? And because of the wisdom that my mother had impressed upon me, I understood that leverage, scale, growth were inevitable if you wanted a successful business. And so I would ask my friends all these questions. And I remember I still have the notes to this day. And
Wow.
when I started my brokerage, I did the same as something similar, which was I invested in the things and in the tools and in the model that I knew would be the one that I could scale with. Right. So a lot of us, when we start businesses, when we start to do things, we try to find the cheapest way in. And then we're like, oh, when I grow, I'll buy the more expensive tool or I'll do the next level up. Problem is once you start something and you start to build systems around it and rely on it, it's
Mhm.
really hard to change products. It's really hard to change systems and procedures, especially when you start to bring additional parties into the mix, right? Like staff and other agents and things of that nature. And so I learned very early on, start with the tools that you can scale with, start with the systems that will allow you to scale and grow leverage and build. And also, I was already thinking about who's going to replace me, right? Like,
Mm.
who's going to do my job for me later. And so I start my businesses thinking about those kinds of things. And so would be a lot of the wisdom and the advice that I picked up from those years with my mother that she's impressed upon me and that have carried me through my career over the last, I don't know how long I've been in business. I think I've been in for 23 years now. So something like that.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Guys, for those of you that are watching, you've got to share this podcast. We are here with Kendall Bonner, a woman of many, many talents, right? Speaking one of them, because like I was sharing, it was the way you spoke, the way you commanded the stage, the eloquence that you used when you transmitted the message, how you broke it down. It really showed your level of knowledge. And so now, we are breaking down, okay, throughout those years when you had to, do the hard work of going to law school, do the hard work of passing your bar, do the hard work of, I'm sure, spend many endless, days and nights preparing for exams, the things that happen in the secret place, right? The things that really test us, that I always like to say, life, God, whatever it is you're looking to accomplish is going to test what are you made up of.
Yeah.
Like, do you have what it takes to earn this, whatever it is, this title, this degree, earn this income, earn this position? And I love how you kicked it off with wisdom, right? Because we don't think about wisdom. Many times we don't think about. So I want to ask you this question because there's a lot of people that are going to watch this on replay And, this goes on until God knows when, right? And there could be someone scrolling in the middle of the night who is struggling, who feels lost and confused, who's going through one of those moments of uncertainty, maybe in uncharted waters, like we are now experiencing in the real estate industry, and really comes across this and starts listening to this message. Explain to us how wisdom in your life and business, especially your business, not just as a licensed Florida attorney, but as a very successful real estate, founder and leader, and everything that you're doing in the real estate space. How has that played a key role? And how have you gone about tapping into wisdom, and what is it?
Oh, that's a good, deep question. So, when I think of wisdom, I feel like what it's done for me is it's caused me to slow down. A lot of
Mm,
people feel like, and I believe in speed to action, right? When it comes to execution, speed is queen. Okay. It is super valuable. But when it comes to your thinking time and your creative time and your decision making time, I think it's really important to slow down to speed up. Um, I am one of those fast decision makers. When you do the personality profiling, I'm a fast decision maker. However, I do feel like when it comes to making wise decisions, or dare I say, intentional decisions or strategic decisions, it's super important that you slow down and you analyze all angles. I have been a person that always is very big on understanding that when you're making decisions, it's important not to close doors that
mm,
have to be closed. So I would look for solutions that would allow doors to remain open as opposed to permanently closing them. I would pray for a way of escape. My mom taught me that. She said, when you're
oh,
making decisions, Kendall, God talks about it in the Bible. Like, you can pray for a way of escape as you step out in faith, as you make decisions about things. Because at the end of the day, and I don't mean to turn this into a preachy call or anything like that, but for those of us that believe like God is leading us,
yes,
sometimes you stuck like, wait, what is God telling me? I'm not sure. And
right.
so my coaching to those people is to say this: make a decision, step out in faith, and ask God to help you with a way of escape if you end up going down the wrong path, whatever that looks like, right? And sometimes it's not even about right or wrong at the time. It can also just be, hey, this is the path and the chapter for this time, and chapters change. I tell people all
Yes,
the time that there's seasons in life. Everything we go through is a season. And one of the things that I've said in the past is, don't let the season become the reason you don't do something.
mm,
And because that season will change, right? And so or the reason to do something or not to do something. And so I just encourage people to, when they're thinking through decisions, I can be very analytical when it comes to those things. And sometimes that produces a wise result for me because I've taken the time to look at all angles. I remember when my husband and I were deciding to move from California. So my husband came to California for law school, which is where I'm from, born and raised.
okay,
And when we were deciding to be together to get married, because we decided while in school to get married. So we got married on Saturday, graduated law school on Sunday. And by Tuesday, we're in the car driving to Florida. We were trying to decide where we were going to start our lives as a couple. And literally, this is the silly thing we did, but it worked. We took a piece of paper and cut it up into 4 squares. And we did pros and cons to each location. But then we took it a step further. And this was my idea because I'm a nerd. I said, let's rank each reason. So in other words, sometimes a pro could have low value and a con could have extremely high value. So we ranked it from like 1 to 5, low value versus high value. And then we added the scores. And that's how we decided to move to Florida, because after ranking all the pros and cons and giving it a score, it was an overwhelming positive decision to move to Florida. And so I know it's a really silly thing. May sound silly, but it practically was very helpful for us to visually and contextually understand what we were doing and the reasons why and the impact it would make on our lives. So I think when you think about wisdom as a whole, it is taking the time to slow down to fully analyze decisions so that you can move quickly and confidently with whatever you end up deciding to do.
I love that. I'm telling you, you speak, and I'm just like, listening to every word because it is so profound. So, um, speaking as a leader, right? We kicked off the podcast talking about, everybody speaks. I mean, God has given us the ability to have a voice. We can utilize it as a tool, as an instrument for good or for bad, right? We get to choose the words that we speak. We get to choose the things that we talk about. Speaking as a leader for our industry, because I mean, you came into the industry, you started from your grassroots days, entering this world of real estate. You've gone through the good, the bad, the ugly. You know the struggle. You know the struggle is real. No one escapes. Doesn't matter how much someone looks like they are loving their life. The struggle it's part of life. It's what shows us, hey, you're alive. You're alive, and as long as you're alive, you're going to have struggle. But guess what? It's meant to show you what you're really made up of. So break it down for those professionals that are listening to this podcast. Speaking like a leader, why should we and how should we do that?
Yeah, so I would say this. I have an acronym. People that have known me a long time know that I am the queen of acronyms. And they help me to frame and reframe my beliefs and also to stay consistent with, where I am, where I'm trying to go, and how I can help people come alongside with me. Because I believe, and I like to be a leader who builds other leaders.
Mm.
The place I want to start with that is I have an acronym called LEAD. And the acronym is this: L is for listen, E is empower, A is appreciate, D is develop. And I feel like if you aspire to lead, those are the 4 qualities that you should focus on first.
That's great.
Listen, empower, appreciate, develop. And the reason why I think I would be described as a good communicator is because ultimately I do focus on being a good listener. I believe great teachers are great students, right? And being a good student, being a good listener is what allows you to hear and understand what the audience or what the person you're engaged with, what they're saying and what they're not saying. And sometimes it's so important to also recognize just the questions that they have that they're not expressing, and making sure that you are pulling that out of people. So for example, when you're at the listing table or you're working with a buyer, it's important that you stop doing all the talking. Too many people think that doing all the talking is leading. And really, you're actually in a worse off position because when the conversation separates, you've walked away with no intelligence, no information, no fuel or no ammunition to help support any future decisions or questions or challenges or objections that this client might have in the future. So your primary goal is to do, I don't know, I'll say 20% of the talking and letting them do 80% of the talking as much as possible. And so when you learn how to ask really great questions, that is when you become the highest form of leader, because now the information you're gathering will empower you to be able to support that person as they move forward in their biggest decision of their life, for example, right? And that is true for whether you are leading clients, you're leading your team or your brokerage, or even your children. I think parents, sometimes we don't spend enough time doing the LEAD acronym. Are we listening to them? Are we empowering them? Are we appreciating them? Are we developing them? Right? And being very intentional about that. And so I just want to encourage people to take that acronym and find ways in which that they can apply that into their world, because it's applicable across many different types of relationships. And watch how it changes the way the other people engage with you, because I think that is when they really start to appreciate you back,
Mhm.
because they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel like they're growing with you. And that's the aspiration of any human being who's working with another human being, is by associating myself with you, am I growing? Am
Yeah.
I showing better? And when that happens, that's real magic. That's really special. And that is when people feel fulfilled, when they feel, like they're elevated, and that they are also inspired and motivated to grow and lead as well.
Yes. It's so powerful. I tell everyone in Southwest Florida, the people that I, serve, through the things that I do on a weekly basis, through the commitments that I've made to make an impact in my real estate industry locally, not just with realtors, the team leaders, brokers, but also with everyone that's in the industry, right? Because I under I understand the struggle of facing a challenging market. I understand the struggle of, people that have been in business less than 10 years really don't know what a normal real estate market is like. They got used to taking orders, everybody wanting to buy, money being real cheap to buy houses, everybody qualifying. And little by little, as we have watched the evolving of a shifting market, 23, 24, 25, and now 26 is like, OMG, what is this? Um, you know, I understand the struggle and the pain of feeling lost and confused. So when you share your acronym for LEAD, it's so powerful, right? Because we all do want to feel heard. We all do want to feel encouraged. We
Mhm.
all want to feel appreciated. Thank you is such a, far and few between used two words, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people just, they're in this realm of just take, 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 take. But, appreciation is powerful. And then, of course, developing someone else, being that helping hand, um, is something that I really feel our industry can use a lot more of.
Yeah.
How do you see the market? You speak to a lot of realtors, you speak to a lot of people in the industry. You feel the pain, I'm sure. What is your best advice for people that are right now, stuck or confused or in chaos?
Ooh. So, one, I would say this: you can't scale chaos. So stop.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are trying to scale chaos, and please stop. I have two main pieces of advice right now, and then I'll make a comment on the market. One of the pieces of wisdom that I would pass on to any listener right now is, before, when you are in a challenged situation, right, regardless of the market, when you're in your business is feeling in a lull, or you're feeling like you're tapped out, a lot of us try to do what I refer to as grow through action, meaning do more, prospect more, follow up more. We're doing more, we're adding more. Oh, I need more leads. I need this, I need that. And I want to give you two pieces of advice. Number one, before you add more, subtract.
Mm.
What can you take away? Because you have to create space. So if
Yes.
you're going to add something, is it worth it to add that if it takes away something else? And sometimes that something else to take it away is good. It's been needing to happen. Maybe you have a lead source that isn't producing fruit,
Hmm.
or
Right.
you have a system or a tool you've been investing in that's not supporting your business, or it's going in the wrong direction.
Right.
Take time to subtract something. Maybe it's an activity, maybe it's a commitment that you've made that you realize is not working for you. Before you add, subtract. That's wisdom number one. The second wisdom I would give: before you do more, document and define what you're currently doing.
Yes. Track
Too many
it.
of us are not currently even paying attention to or truly assessing and analyzing what we're already doing. Because sometimes before you do more, maybe what you're currently doing needs to be refined, or maybe you didn't even realize you were doing it and it's working, but because you haven't been paying attention, you haven't really assessed its value to your business.
Mm-hmm.
Or better, before you can add another staff person or an assistant, you've got to document what you're already and currently doing so that that supports the transition of that activity off of your plate onto someone else's. And so I would say that those would be the two pieces of advice that I would give. And that to me is relevant regardless of market that you're in, right? But especially in a challenging market, I think taking time to do those two things can have huge return on investment for what you're currently doing, right? And that's that. Now, as far as the market goes, I feel this way about the market. The market does not define your business.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why. Because people are moving regardless of interest rates. They're moving regardless of equity in their home. And the reason why is it ties back to life events. And I feel like a lot of real estate professionals are not paying attention or as close enough attention to life events and the things that actually get people to move as much as they should be. In fact, we swim in what I refer to red ocean more often than blue ocean. And red ocean is that space where you are fighting for leads and you know, because we call them leads, right? And they're not leads, they're people.
Yes.
Right? These are humans with real situations that are happening that are causing them to need to buy or sell real estate and transact in that space. And, you know, we're fighting over leads when we should be connecting to life events. And so, for example, when someone is getting divorced, there's a higher than not likelihood that someone is going to be moving.
Yes.
There's a higher than likelihood that that home, there might not be a scenario where either of them can stay, that they have to sell the home so that they can split the proceeds or divide the debt or whatever, or, you know, minimize the debt or things of that nature. And then perhaps, you know, rent or purchase two future homes. I would even work with the divorcee if I were you, who's renting, because there's a good chance if they're a previous homeowner, that rental is going to be temporary because most homeowners tend to want to continue to be homeowners. They understand the value of that. So even if they're renting from 1 year, you now have a future buyer that you've assisted out of a very difficult situation that is going to be a future homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, staying connected with people who are in these life event transitions through these difficult times or even positive times, right? Like, for example, I'm entering my empty nester phase. Both of my children are in college, and my husband and I want to downsize into a much, much, much smaller house. A lot less. We're currently cleaning out the house and getting rid of tons of stuff and donating. And, you know, this would be a great time. Yes, do not contact me. I am a real estate professional. I don't.
She knows a very good realtor herself.
I know many.
Yes.
many fantastic realtors. But the point is that that's the problem, right? For example, someone raises their hand and says, "Hey, I need a realtor," and it's red ocean. Everyone's fighting for that.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Don't you love those Facebook posts and groups that I think it's just a bait. I think people just write it to see everybody starts jumping out like fish, you know, just going after the bait. I'm like, oh my goodness.
And what would have happened if we had just been paying attention to the life transitions? We would have spotted that early and could have been connecting with that person long before they've raised their hand. In other words, when you follow up with people, whether it's your sphere of influence or a stranger, you're looking for the life transition. If you would stop looking for, are you ready to buy or sell a house?
Right.
Looking for what's going on in life. How are things? How are the kids? How's your partner? How's this? How's that? How's the dog doing? Right.
Mhm.
Even things like, hey, we're really struggling. We need a fenced backyard. That's a signal for I'm probably going to be moving, because some people will move over their dog or someone
Right.
else's dog, right? How are your
Yes.
neighbors? And that makes follow up more conversational and less transactional
Yes.
with following up on life. But now you're listening for the life event, and that's what triggers the eventual, transaction. And so
Mhm.
stop looking for the transaction and start paying attention to, the life event triggers. And I think
Yes,
when you do that, the market moves regardless
it
of
does.
what's happening, because people who are getting divorced, they don't care about interest rates and the moments. They care about, or their equity. They care about, getting through this very difficult situation. I'm not saying they don't care about those things, but that's not the first
Right.
thing thinking
Right.
about. Right?
So as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, being a person of influence, being a person of authority, and I think we all need to position ourselves as the person of influence, right? The top of mind, the go-to, even in things that don't have to do with anything about making money, right? So just because, it makes money doesn't mean that I should be that person that you think of. You should think of, everybody should think of us at any moment, right? If we're a person of influence, everyone should think of us as that person of authority, expertise, bringing it to our real life experiences. I want to share something with you and get your input on it. Last night I couldn't sleep. I'm on a mission to help the agents that are, you know, wanting to go to that next level, but they're not able to yet, right? And I really believe it all boils down to being in the right circles, being around the right people, having the right conversations with people that have been where you want to go. And as you know, our industry is very silo driven. It's very, every man for himself, and that just leads to more of the chaos. So I couldn't sleep last night. So what did I do? I went on our broker command and I started looking at the stats. I started looking at the reports, and I could not believe in our local association, 60%, Kendall, 60% of real estate agents have had no closings so far this year. And I was like, how or what can I do to help these people?
Yeah.
Because I really believe no one gets into real estate to fail. I really believe no one gets into real estate not to make money. And then I took it a step further and I said, let me look at the per agent productivity in all the offices, right? And the per agent productivity is 1.7. That means that out of all the real estate companies in our area, in our local board, I mean, it doesn't matter if they have 300 agents, 200 agents, 150 agents, all put together, right? We're at 1.7. And I said, how are they going to make it? And
Mhm.
so, speaking with you, wisdom, efficiency, doing your business with the end in mind, how could you enlighten us, for everyone that's watching and everyone that's going to watch? What do you do if you're one of these 60% people that have had no closings or one closing in the last 4 months?
Oh. Oh, okay. I have uh I have a couple of different feelings about this. I and this is probably not the answer you want, but I will say this. Number one, many of us that got into the business, myself included, was very naive.
Hmm.
We thought we knew what we were getting into and we had no clue. And and I say that myself included. Like, I joke and say I was the most naive smart person, because I consider myself to be smart. Like, I'm definitely book smart, if nothing else. But um I feel very naive because I, like many, when I got into the industry, thought that the business would work one way when in fact it worked a completely different way. right? And the challenge with that is that when those of us are the agents in the trenches who have been there, done that, and know what this life is like, we try to warn new licensees and people coming in. And sometimes people just don't want to hear us.
Right.
I mean, it's the truth. They don't want to hear that it won't work for them, or that if they come in with, well, that's what they hear. And what we're really trying to say is, if you come in with this mindset, that won't work. Not you. That mindset, that strategy.
Those habits, those habits that you have, the mindset, obviously, the lack of discipline, those things that sabotage.
Yeah. And I think too, for me, it comes down to identity. Bigger than habits, it's identity. And until you internalize the identity of the person who succeeds in real estate, you will struggle succeeding in real estate. Meaning, if you are a person that says, well, I'm not a salesperson, I just, I like helping people and I like doing customer service, or I'm not, like I would see people say, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a matchmaker. Like that's, I don't know, I guess it's branding, but it's the, mindset that you have to have has to be, I am willing to do the hard work. This business, there is no easy button. Like if you get into this business expecting an easy button, a hack, anyone that's trying to sell you a hack, an easy button, a shortcut, a gimmick, it's a lie. It will not work. This business doesn't work that way. You don't get a license and people don't just call you. That's not what happens. Okay. Yes. In fact, your family and friends are more likely to go hire someone else than to hire you. Yes. Not because they don't like you, not because they don't know you, but it's because they know you. Because they associate some past version of you with this new professional that you've become. Like I give you an example, I'm a lawyer, and at one point my grandmother, I'm in my late 30s, early 40s, and all my grandmother could see was this little girl. She could not comprehend that I'm an attorney and I can handle this situation. Like it was really hard for her. Right. And I don't blame her. It's okay. I've forgiven. But you have to remember that your family sees you and your friends see you like in this personal space. It's hard for them to see you in the professional space until you see yourself in that space. Right. Yes. And so, you have to assume the identity. It's like Clark Kent and Superman, right? Yes. In your personal side, you're Clark Kent. When your professional side, you are Superman or Superwoman, right? And that's the identity that you have to put on in those spaces. And I think that it's not necessarily about all the things that you do. It's where you start to live in a space where you allow yourself to be so uncomfortable that you grow. Yes. Because, I had a mentor and a coach tell me, is like, there's no growth without discomfort. That was his quote to me. And I thought that was very wise. I will even go further and tell you, this is how important identity is. In fact, it's one of the talks that I've done recently and that I'm doing more of in the future, which is that your brain recognizes patterns, but growth requires disruption. And the reason why this matters is, for example, I'm going to make this brief, Lucy. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, girl. Listen, I'm taking it all in, and the people that are watching and the people that are going to watch later are just like, because we're hungry. We're hungry for this.
Yeah. So think about, have you ever had a time where you were driving home and you got home and you don't remember how you got there? Yes. Okay? This happens to all of us. You don't remember the turns, you don't remember the stops. You were on autopilot. Your brain was on autopilot. And your brain does this on purpose. It's efficient. And it creates these shortcuts that allow it to operate more efficiently. And so it looks for patterns. Your brain recognizes patterns and looks for patterns so that it can do its job, so you can consciously do whatever it is that you need to be doing. Because your brain is hit with 11 million bits, millions and millions of bits every day, every second. But your conscious brain can only access 40 to 50 of those bits. So your brain creates these shortcuts. It's called schema.
Mm.
that and these cabinets, so that when it recognizes things that are familiar, it says, hey, is this familiar? And it puts it in that cabinet and it operates accordingly. And so when you want to when it encounters something different and something unexpected, that's when it wakes up and it wakes you up and makes you pay attention, right? So it's like, for example, if you were driving home and there was a hazard on your road, then that would cause you to pay attention. You come out of your like deep thought on something else while driving, right? But that I would say this to say, you know, when your brain creates these shortcuts, it also does that with how it sees ourselves, right? How we perceive ourselves. It creates mental file cabinets and it protects us. So, for example, this is why we have challenges like self-sabotage or risk avoidance. This is why fear has so much impact on what we do and what we don't do, because that's our brain recognizing something and trying to protect us from it. And so when you're trying to enter into that next level of growth, that next level of aspiration, and it makes you a little scared and nervous, your brain doesn't recognize the difference between a good fear, like I'm just scared because I'm afraid of failure because I really want this, versus I'm scared because this is hot and my mom and dad told me not to touch it. The body function is the same. And so because your brain is protecting you from these fears, it's going to protect you also from yourself.
Yes.
So you have to learn how to sit in that discomfort long enough so that this new schema, this new pattern, this new identity can form so that you can confidently walk in that and that becomes your new default. So these are the things that I think that many of us don't realize are happening subconsciously. And this is neuroscience, right? These are, this is, you know, and again, for any believers out there, God talks about, you know, the renewal of your mind and transformation. Like this is not science disconnected from faith. This is science interconnected with faith. Like that you can be renewed. You can be made new.
And we have been.
Yes, a new identity and a new space in life. And so these are the opportunities that I think that sometimes people miss because no one's taught them.
Yes.
They don't realize. And so I'm kind of on this mission to bring this to people's attention and hopefully help people, you know, make these connections and transcend ways. Yeah. And recognize that the next version and the next best version of you is on the other side of a decision that you made for your life. So it's not about anyone else. It's not, life is not happening to you. It's happening for you. And when you recognize this and you recognize the challenges, the roadblocks, the walls, they're all there to grow you and to build you and to give you that firm foundation so that you can make a successful transition to the next version of your life. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yes, girl, that has been profound. And the word that you used to articulate it is exactly the word that I believe it is. It's the identity.
Yeah.
You know, we can all succeed in real estate if we develop the right identity and transforming our mind by renewing it, by getting around the people. Listen, when I come back from things like Build, when I come back from things like EXPCon, when I come back from, you know, being in Cabo, where we just saw each other, I come back and I tell people, you just don't understand the tribe that I am part of and what they do and how they do it and how they walk and they talk and they perform and the conversations that they have and the things that they're building. I'm like, you just don't understand. You have to experience it. And we all have to go through a renewing of our mind and our identity, right? Every single day. Listen, I want to join your mission on helping the real estate industry, especially the realtors and the team leaders and the brokers, awaken into that version, that real design of who they were created to be. Because it doesn't, you know, some people are thinking they're like HGTV, million dollar lister, flip and flip or whatever, flipping twins, or I like showing houses. I like answering the phone. It's like, that is not it. That's not what a true entrepreneur, real estate business professional, somebody that's thriving in business, that's not the identity. You've got to do the work. So, Kendall, I want to respect your time. You are an author, you have a book. It has something to do with what you shared about it. I want you to tell us about the book, and I want you to tell us about this new venture that you have launched in the next 5 minutes that we have together, because I could be here with you the rest of, for hours, right?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Lucy. You have facilitated a beautiful conversation, and I just am so honored, and I'm so humbled and so grateful for you, the opportunity to be on this call with you, to share what I've learned, and to also be impacted and learn from you today. So thank you for your beautiful words, your kindness, your leadership, and of course, your strength, and as a speaker and as a communicator as well in our industry. So thank you for having courage and bravery to have the podcast and do the work, because this kind of thing is not easy. And I know what you deal with in this podcast space, for example, while also running your other businesses, and your heart and your contribution. So thank you.
Thank you.
You deserve honor for that as well. So I actually have a author's copy of my book. So I just am publishing. It's on pre-order right now, The Motivated Mover Method. This is the book I wrote. This is one of the reasons why I retired from EXP, is so that I could write this book. Oh. And I had, when I started my business, I started my real estate career with a niche. And I literally, every client I had was someone you would have described, that I describe in this book, and how you find them, how you build business with them. And it's really about helping you build a predictable pipeline of clients regardless of the market.
Wow.
So the book releases on May 5th. Super excited.
Yes.
You can get it on Amazon. And you can get it, it's going to be on Kindle Unlimited. It'll be on Kindle, but you can also get a paperback and a hard copy. So super
Wow. Exciting. Yes. Congratulations. Everybody write down the name, The Motivated Mover
Method.
Okay. And we all need to get around motivated movers. Like, I want to surround myself with move makers, move takers, motivated movers. So awesome. Excellent.
Thank you. And then the other adventure that I'm on is, I have been really blessed to speak on hundreds of stages at this point. I've been blessed to MC, moderate, keynote, be a panelist, and I've learned a lot. I find that for those of us that want to be on more stages, the rules have been unwritten, I say, until now. Awesome. And so I started the Industry Speaks Academy to help bring new voices into the industry. One of the biggest things that I've learned, that from transitioning from building a personal brand, which is what many of us are taught to do in real estate, build a personal brand that's very, it's great and it's hyper local. But some of us have this heart for contribution, meaning we want to contribute back to our industry. And so my goal is to help you turn your personal brand into an industry brand. Yes. And help you turn your expertise and experience into industry contribution. And so this is not about hype. This is not about becoming an influencer, although you will build authority by building an industry brand. Like, I have been blessed. I get invited by other brokerages to speak to their agents.
I love that.
And you realize the level of trust, like, most brokers and people don't invite people who are not in their ecosystem to talk to their people. That's very rare. And so I've been truly blessed that I've been able to do that. I've been able to repeatedly get on industry stages. So I was asked, by others, like, how did you do this? And so I decided to build it so that, because I didn't have anywhere to point people. So because I had kind of learned on my own. And so my goal here with the Academy is to help teach people all the lessons I've learned, and also make the introductions and expose the relationships and build up others, and giving them an opportunity to get into the rooms, to have seats at the table, and to take their expertise and give back to others as well. So,
well, count me in, sister. I am ready. And I love that. I love that you have taken your trajectory, your experience, your expertise, and now you're bringing it back to contribute, to co-elevate, right? To make an impact. That's definitely something that is on the pulse of my heartbeat. And I think that that's how we build legacy.
Yes, thank you. That's one of my words, legacy, leadership, leverage, and legacy, for sure. That's what God's put on my heart. So if you're interested in learning more about the Industry Speaks Academy, I also have a signature talk intensive workshop coming up April 22nd. It's a 6-week workshop where we will do an intensive on getting you your first signature talk, or refining a talk that you currently have that you want to expand on, and or learn, what's working, what's not working. And that is really, like, to me, the foundational piece to being a prolific and profound speaker. And so that's coming up. If you want more information, you can email me or you can DM me on social media platforms. I'm pretty much on all of them except TikTok. I'm there, but I'm not really there. So don't TikTok me, or DM me, but Instagram, DM, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then my email is Kendall, KENDALL @theindustryspeaks.com.
Kendall @theindustryspeaks.com. And do you have a link to your workshop? If you do, send it to us. We'll put it on the comments and I'll share it. And I'm going to be traveling on April 22nd, but I'm going to see if I can be part of that workshop, because, I really believe that we are living in defining moments, Kendall. Nothing is happening by accident. That's the way that God has shown me to live every day. Everything is working out exactly like it's supposed to work out, and nothing happens, like you said, to me. It happens for me, and all things work together for good. So even in the bad days, I'm like, well, God's got a better plan. So let's just see how he's going to show up and show out, So thank you for being here. I honor you. I know you have a very full schedule. Thank you for making a space and a place for Agents in the Trenches today. I pray this is not the last time, or that you're not, that you come again, and that we can continue. We can continue developing this conversation that I know is so impactful and brought so much wisdom, and, just everything that we all need day to day. We need more of this in our industry so that we can feed our heart, our minds, and our souls.
Amen. Thank you. I appreciate you, Lucy. Thank you so much. And I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. And we will see you next time on Agents in the Trenches. Till next time, everyone. God bless.
Red Sun Insurance. Dándote el poder de crecer. Red Sun Insurance. RedZoneInsurance.com.
Red Zone Insurance tiene increíbles oportunidades de franquicias y queremos compartirlas contigo. Llama al 305-255-1901 y conocerás el camino a emprender tu propio negocio, tu propia franquicia. 305-255-1901.
Red Sun Insurance.